It was a Tuesday, a perfectly ordinary Tuesday, the kind where the most exciting event was usually the mail delivery. Ilara, a librarian whose life revolved around the Dewey Decimal System and the comforting scent of aging paper, was midway through shelving a particularly dry collection of historical economics texts when it happened. The first sign was subtle. A book, The Wealth of Nations, shimmered. Not in a magical, ethereal way, but like heat haze rising from asphalt, except there was no heat. Ilara blinked, rubbed her eyes, and looked again. The book was perfectly still, its cover a familiar dull green. "Must be tired," she murmured, pushing a stray strand of hair behind her ear. But then, a patron at the circulation desk started speaking, and their voice warbled. It was like a faulty audio file, skipping and distorting, even as the person's lips moved normally. Ilara felt a chill prickle her arms. She looked around. No one else seemed to notice. Old Mr. Henderson was still engrossed in the daily crossword. Mrs. Gable was patiently waiting for her turn, a serene smile on her face. Over the next few days, the glitches escalated. A mug of tea Ilara was holding vanished for a second, then reappeared, steaming, in her hand. The library clock, a stately grandfather clock that had ticked faithfully for a century, suddenly spun its hands wildly for a few seconds before settling back to the correct time. Words on computer screens would momentarily scramble into gibberish before resolving. Ilara started keeping a small, leather-bound notebook, meticulously documenting each incident. She felt like a lone sentinel in a world quietly unraveling. When she tried to mention it to her colleague, Ben, he just chuckled. "Too much science fiction, Ilara. You're seeing things." Frustrated but undeterred, Ilara began to research. She delved into obscure physics theories, philosophical concepts of reality, even ancient myths. The internet, bless its glitching heart, provided fragmented clues. Concepts like quantum fluctuations, simulation hypothesis, and fabric of reality began to coalesce in her mind. One evening, as she walked home, the streetlights flickered in an erratic dance. The sound of distant traffic became a distorted drone. Ilara stopped, her heart pounding. The world around her seemed to be thinning, like a veil becoming transparent. Then, she saw it clearly. For a split second, the brick wall of a building across the street shimmered, and through it, she glimpsed something else. Something vast, intricate, and impossibly complex, like the inside of a supercomputer or a colossal, alien machine. Terror warred with a strange, exhilarating sense of understanding. This wasn't just tired eyes or an overactive imagination. This was real. The next morning, Ilara arrived at the library with a new resolve. She went straight to the section on theoretical physics. Her fingers danced across the spines until she found it, a slim, unassuming book titled The Nature of Existence, a Unified Field Theory. It was an old edition, published in the 1970s, by a virtually unknown physicist named Dr. Eris Thorne. As she read, her blood ran cold. Thorne's theory, dismissed by the scientific community of his time, described reality not as a solid, immutable construct, but as an intricately woven energy field, a simulation powered by an unknown source. He hypothesized that subtle energetic disturbances, glitches, could occur, revealing the underlying mechanics. He even described the shimmering and warping Ilara had witnessed. Thorne's work mentioned a key component, a harmonic stabilizer, a theoretical device designed to maintain the integrity of this energetic field. He believed such a device, if it existed, would be hidden in plain sight, integrated into the very fabric of the simulated world. Ilara's gaze drifted to the library's central rotunda. In its very heart stood a massive, antique pendulum clock. It wasn't the grandfather clock that had glitched, but a far older, grander timepiece, a relic from the library's founding in the late 19th century. Its brass workings gleamed, its pendulum swung with a hypnotizing rhythm. Suddenly, a memory surfaced. An old library legend, whispered among staff for decades, about the clock. Not just a clock, but something more, a heart of the building, keeping it stable, preserving its history. Nonsense, she'd always thought. But now? She approached the clock, her mind racing. The glitches had been intensifying. Patrons were starting to look confused, their conversations occasionally devolving into non sequiturs. The very air felt fragile. As she reached the clock, a faint, almost imperceptible hum emanated from its base. It wasn't the sound of gears, but something deeper, resonant. She ran her hand over the polished wood. Her fingers brushed against a small, almost invisible seam near the base. With a surge of adrenaline, she pushed. A small, hidden panel clicked open. Inside, nestled among intricate gears and wires, was a pulsating crystal. It glowed faintly, a soft, warm light. But as she watched, the glow flickered, dimmed, and then intensified erratically. The glitches outside the library intensified with it. The lights outside flickered, and a distant siren wailed, its sound bending and stretching. Ilara knew, with a certainty that transcended logic, that this crystal was Thorn's harmonic stabilizer. And it was failing. She remembered Thorn's cryptic notes about recalibration. He mentioned a specific frequency, a resonance that needed to be restored. How could she possibly know what that was? Then, another memory, this time from her childhood. Her grandmother, a wise woman who always seemed to know more than she let on, had often brought Ilara to the library. Her grandmother had a curious habit of gently tapping the pendulum of this very clock, humming a specific, repetitive tune as she did so. Ilara, as a child, had mimicked her, fascinated by the way the clock seemed to settle after her grandmother's touch. It was a simple, almost lullaby-like melody. A sequence of 3 notes repeated, rising and falling. With trembling hands, Ilara reached into the hidden compartment. The crystal hummed erratically. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and began to hum the tune her grandmother had taught her. She didn't know why, or how, but she felt an instinctual pull, a resonance. As she hummed, a strange thing happened. The crystal's erratic flickering began to slow. The soft, warm light within it pulsed with a steadier rhythm, in sync with her hum. The pervasive sense of fragility in the air began to recede. Outside, the streetlight stabilized. The distant siren returned to its normal wail. She continued, her voice unwavering, until the crystal glowed with a steady, comforting light. The hum from within the clock settled into a low, consistent thrum. The world felt solid again, real. Ilara carefully closed the panel. She stepped back, looking at the clock. It was just a clock again, ticking faithfully. The shimmering had ceased. The warbling voices were gone. She never told anyone what she had done. Ben still chuckled about her science fiction theories. Old Mr. Henderson still did his crosswords. Life in the library, in the world, continued as normal. But Ilara knew. She knew the truth, a truth hidden beneath the mundane, a secret heartbeat of reality she had helped to mend. She had faced the glitch in their reality and, with a simple act born of instinct and a forgotten melody, had set it right.